and welcome to Shell Point Today for Tuesday, December 8th. I'm Rich Nation.
And I'm Mary Kay Grimaldi. On today's show, Sherry Brown of the Larson Pavilion will answer questions about how Shell Point communicates with hospitals. And we'll look back at the career of Sales and Marketing Vice President David Moreland, who will be celebrating his retirement today with Shell Point residents.
But first, don't forget that tomorrow at the Springs there will be an informational presentation for you or a loved one who is planning a move to assisted living. Topics will include what to expect from the move-in process, tips on downsizing, and where to begin, and much more. Holiday refreshments will be shared, and residents can take a tour of the Springs following the presentation, which begins at 2 p.m. For more information, contact Pat Cunningham at 454-2299.
Also tomorrow is Beach Day. A favorite outing for many residents is the Delnor Wiggins Pass State Park. There's plenty of sun, shade, and of course, beach. You'll enjoy a picnic lunch and a stop for ice cream on the return trip. The cost of the outing is $16, which includes the lunch. Ice cream is on your own. Court pickups begin on the island at 8:30 a.m.
If you like to eat bagels, or even if you don't, you'll certainly enjoy this behind-the-scenes look at the Bagel Factory. On Thursday, come learn all about these doughy round, delicious delights, and after the tour, you can enjoy a yummy bagel lunch. The cost of the trip is $7 with lunch on your own. Court pickups begin at 9:30 on the island, so don't forget to sign up.
Many residents have wondered how Shell Point communicates with hospitals. What happens if a resident is hospitalized? Who is notified and what actions are taken? Sherry Brown, Director of Long-Term Care, has brought along Rhanda with her today to shed some light on the subject. Rhanda is the admissions coordinator at the Larson Pavilion, and she shares with Sherry how they receive and respond from the different sources of communication.
Hello, I'm Sherry Brown, Director of Long-Term Care in the Larson Pavilion, and I brought a guest with me today. We'd like to answer some of the questions that we've been hearing posed throughout the Shell Point community, and that's primarily, how does Shell Point communicate with hospitals? So I brought an expert with me. Today I have Rhanda, who's the admissions coordinator from our Larson Pavilion. And Rhanda, it's good to have you with me.
Good to be here.
Now, we've been hearing a few good questions from out there in our Shell Point community, and one of them deals with, how does Shell Point communicate with our local hospitals? So Rhanda, I'd like to start with that. Is there a plan for how we communicate with hospitals?
Well, actually, I get the communication line from several different sources within Shell Point as well as the hospitals. Typically, if someone from Shell Point is hospitalized, we'll either get that brought to us by someone from, it can be the community, a neighbor, a spouse, a case manager, the nurse that responds to the village call. The medical center, I get it from several sources, as well as communication from the ER in the hospital, or for the case manager in the hospital that's going to initiate that discharge planning process.
So you have a lot of eyes and ears out there.
Absolutely.
Is there a preferred method that you would hope for as you're gathering this information?
Typically the easiest and smoothest way, so that I know the fastest and can respond the fastest, is by folks pulling that pull cord. If they're going to call the ambulance, go ahead and do so. If there's a need to call 911, certainly, but pull your pull cord so that we know that there needs to be a nurse responding, or that we can respond and be there with you for that.
Very good. And what if someone is planning a procedure in the hospital or expects to go in for surgery?
I would welcome them to visit me, call me, let me know that they have an upcoming surgery. We'll go through all of the procedure ahead of time as far as insurance verification, getting them on the surgery calendar. We do keep a calendar to keep track of those folks having upcoming surgeries, and we can complete the admission paperwork, make it as smooth as possible when they're coming out of the hospital.
That really sounds like a simplified method, and I guess especially in this time of year while all of healthcare throughout Lee County is very busy, that would really help us be prepared, don't you think?
Certainly. For planning purposes, I want to make it as easy on the resident as possible.
And it helps the staff to have everything ready so that it's an easy transition from hospital to pavilion. Is there anyone else that joins you in the hospital visits?
Typically, myself and Mackenzie Millis, our healthcare marketing specialist, are in the hospital. We do visit typically all of the Lee County hospitals. We're usually out 4 to 5 days a week. We can't guarantee that we'll see everyone, as this time of year there is the high demand, but we do try to visit with everyone and make that transition from the hospital to home or to the pavilion to their assisted living facility as smooth as possible. We want to make sure they have the right resources on board when they're leaving the hospital. If they have a need, we want to make sure that we're following up.
And I suppose it's possible even when you're in the hospital visiting you or Mackenzie, while you may pop into the resident's room, it's possible you still might not see them.
Absolutely. When you're in the hospital, as you know, there's often tests, scans, lots of things get you out of the room where we might miss you.
And when that happens, how are you communicating?
We always try to leave something behind for the resident to know that we were visiting. If it's a business card or a get well card, we want to extend our well wishes. But also we do talk to the case managers, the discharge planners while we're in the hospital, so they know that whatever their need, whatever the case manager or the residents need, we're there to help.
Very good. And I suppose there's a lot of communication between you and the case manager discussing dates of discharge.
Well, in our current age of technology, we do everything electronically. It's a very secure system where they just send us a recap of what the person's need is, so that if we're expecting the resident in the pavilion, then we have that medication list. We know what that person has experienced in the hospital and what the aftercare needs will be. So it just makes it that much more, that much easier for everyone.
And it really gives you a full picture, doesn't it, of what's going on. What happens when someone might go into the hospital in the emergency department, for instance, and they're not kept there? What if they're discharged at night?
Well, we do have a supervisor, a pavilion supervisor on staff that is answering calls in the evenings. The hospital, all of the ERs, all of the hospital discharge planners do have an after hours and weekend telephone number. They know who to contact in case they do have an overnight discharge or a sudden unplanned discharge and I'm not in the office.
Very good. And what if someone is discharged and they're just not feeling up to par, as strong or well as they usually would feel? What would you suggest?
If they're already home and they've just been discharged, they're not feeling well, definitely they need to follow up with their physician. If they see the medical center, call the medical center, schedule that appointment, let the physician know what's going on, and they can help determine if there needs to be a pavilion admission at that point or what services need to be brought on board.
Very good. Well, Rhanda, I appreciate you joining me today to talk about these things. We hope that we've been helpful in answering your questions. If you should have anything more specific that's not been covered today, I would encourage you to call Rhanda Lee in the admissions department in the Larson Pavilion, and her phone number is 415-5432. If you have a question, she'll be sure to find an answer. Thanks again, Rhanda.
Thank you.
Since 1984, David Moreland has guided the Shell Point sales and marketing team in a relentless pursuit of the story. Telling the Shell Point story and helping people find and call this marvelous oasis home has driven Dave for 32 years. That's quite a run, and many here have regarded him as a permanent fixture. But as the saying goes, all good things must come to an end. And so today, residents will have the opportunity to bid Dave Moreland farewell as he embarks on yet another adventure and another chapter in his life. He left an imprint on many people's lives here, and he will truly be missed. And so we take a look back as Dave tells about coming to Shell Point and how his love of God and business came together so beautifully.
Well, in all honesty, I came to Shell Point because I needed a job. And I had a business in New England. It was retail, direct mail, and I had a catalog company. And we had some great years and had a great life there in New England, and we're very happy, never wanted to leave New England. One of the recessions took a big hit on us. I lost a lot of money and went broke. And I struggled for 3 years to feed our family, and it was a very difficult time. It all led up to a call and an invitation to have an interview with someone from Shell Point.
The board of directors was looking for someone to head up the sales and marketing office here at Shell Point.
He invited me to come to Nyack, New York, which was the headquarters then of the Christmas Airlines. Honestly, I didn't have the money for the gas, so I said, you know, I could come down to your office and try to impress you, but what would give you a much better bead on me and our family would be if you came to our home and let us give you dinner.
He asked us if we would go to Massachusetts, where this candidate lived. And so we drove together with our wives, and that's when we met David Moreland.
You know, we had a delightful evening, frankly, and out of that interview came an invitation to move to Shell Point. And we feel that this was our destiny, that God brought us here. And I never dreamed that this would be such a great business and ministry. And this dual passion, loving God on one hand and loving business on the other, came together so beautifully for us.
David has done a fantastic job of fully integrating his faith with his career, as opposed to compartmentalizing the two from each other. The result, I believe, is a greater blessing in both areas, both for himself and for Shell Point.
To me in sales, so much of sales is learning to tell the story and learning to get the story down. As I learned the story, I began to learn how to tell it in a way that was compelling.
I think Dave has set the standard for sales here at Shell Point, and I think every other CCRC, probably in the country, would like to have a David Moreland on board to lead their sales staff. He has been successful, he's a godly person, just a wonderful man, and a true leader.
His demonstration of leadership, he has certainly led by example, and I've learned so much from him.
And we have to provide opportunity for people to come and experience Shell Point, really seeking to answer two questions. Would I want to call this place home? Number one. And would I want to call these people friends and neighbors?
So as we've been challenged to answer those questions, I think David has really helped us to create a sales and a marketing culture that's really been unlike anything that I have ever experienced in my entire 45-year career in healthcare.
David's sales and marketing expertise are legendary throughout the country, and the success he has brought to Shell Point in that area is well documented. But more than that, his remarkable biblical knowledge and grasp of the Christian worldview has made him a tremendous spiritual asset to Shell Point as well.
I have concluded many years ago that God wired me for this job, that it comes natural to me.
He is gifted in discerning what the market is out there.
Our tagline, lifestyle with life care. I've always felt that that is a great tagline, and I think it tells the story in 3 words. I love it, and I still love it today. And I remember it came to me one day when I was coming to work, and I was so excited. I got in my office and I called Pete. I said, Pete, I've got something to tell you. I have a tagline that we're going to live with, and it's going to be good. I told him, and it immediately clicked, and he identified immediately that it was good. That gives me a lot of pleasure. Many people who you sell life care to, because it's such a long period of time that they're looking at it, they become friends. So we've made many friends through the years.
David's been a great friend for me. He has served as a mentor. He's served as someone who I see as an incredible example of a godly man.
He is humble, kind, gracious, perseverant, and most of all, he's a man of God.
So when people have asked me, would you sell it to your mother? And the answer is I did. And my mother and dad lived a wonderful life here and enjoyed it very much.
He and I are first cousins. His mother, my father, brother and sister. David is one of the most compassionate, joyful, and genuine people I have ever known. I'm a few years older than David, of course, but I find myself looking up to him, admiring his life of integrity and righteousness.
The most memorable thing for me about David is a conversation that I had with him. He started to talk about his wife with such love and affection and kindness and respect, and I thought that was really special.
Back in 2005, we were in the middle of our 100 apartments turning over and all of that renovation. We had doubled the amount of construction we were in the middle of, and the stress level had just absolutely peaked. And David came down to my office, and he got me, and we walked down the hall, and we grabbed the construction manager, and the three of us got together, and David led us in prayer. And there was just a peace that came about when he did that. And by God's grace, we made it through that. And that's David Moreland to me. He's a prayerful man, he's a God-fearing man, and he's one that I treasure and love, and I'm happy to call him my friend.
I spent about 5 hours with David and Pete one day as we drove to our sister facility at the Land. And it was 5 hours of me saying almost nothing, which most of you know would be very difficult. But it was such a joy. For 5 hours, I listened to the two of them recount time after time after time in the history of Shell Point where God's hand led them and others through what were incredibly difficult and very, very challenging situations.
I am very humbled by my experience to have been here. I am so grateful, and I'm thankful that I have been a party to such a great thing.
Dave, I just want to personally thank you very much for having the distinct pleasure of working with you over the past 17 years. I know you've been here longer than I have. When I say that you are a role model, you're a role model. When I say that I love you, I mean that. I love you.
So David, thanks so much for what you've meant in my life. There is no doubt, quite honestly, that I am a better man for having known you.
He's inspired me, he's encouraged me on many occasions, and from time to time, he's gently counseled me. I'm deeply grateful. Thank you, David.
There is a saying that there are people who come into our lives and then quickly leave. There are others who come and stay a while, and they leave footprints on our heart, and we're never the same. That can be said of David Moreland. I believe that he's left footprints on Shell Point and on many of our hearts, and we are not the same.
And now it's time to look at today's happenings, menus, and Village Church connections.
Hello and happy Tuesday. This is the Happening segment of Shell Point TV. I'm Caitlin Vanscoy, and I'm going to give you all of Tuesday's happenings. We start at 7:15 with the Health Connections class, Bend, Breathe, and Balance. That's in the Health Club on the island. At 8 o'clock, we have Round Robin Doubles Tennis. That's at the tennis courts at the Woodlands. And the Stamp Ministry will be down in the Stamp Room at 8:15. 8:30 is the time for bocce at the bocce courts. And the Ladies Golf Association will be at 8:30. They'll be meeting at the Shell Point Golf Club. At 9:15, open painting is available in the art studio down in the Island Tunnel. And match play mixed doubles tennis is at 9:30 at the Woodlands tennis courts. At 10:15, Through the Bible study group will be meeting in the Osprey Room on the island. And the Suzy Q heads out at 10:15 to Grandma Dot's restaurant. You do need to sign up for that at the Island Greeters desk. The Vision Enrichment group will be meeting in the Social Center at 10:15. And our last morning activity is LifeQuest Living Healthy. That'll be 11:45 in the Osprey Room. We start our afternoon with Mixed Progressive Bridge at 12:30. That'll be in the Woodlands Game Room. At 1:15, we have a Health Connections class, Holiday Nail Art. That's in the Social Center on the island, and that is sign-up required. The Knitters group will be at 1:15 in the Osprey Room on the island. And at 1:15, the Rollicking Recorderists will be in the Tarpon Room. Shuffleboard is available at 1:15 at the Shuffleboard courts behind the Resident Activity Center. And 1:15, we have Women's Ministries Prayer. That'll be in the hospitality room of the Village Church. We move to 1:30 for Stamp Ministry. They'll be in the Sable Room at the Woodlands. And at 2:15, come by and say goodbye to David Moreland. That's his retirement celebration from 2:15 to 4:15 in the Village Church. At 2:45, we have a Health Connections class, Balance and Mobility Training Advanced. That's in the Health Club and currently full. Well, that's all we have for you here today. We'll see you right back here tomorrow.
Menus for Tuesday. In the Crystal Room, the Crystal Platter is turkey divan with rice pilaf and stewed tomatoes. The dinner special is the carved turkey buffet for $13.95. The soup of the day is country cabbage. In the Island Cafe for lunch, the special is Santa Fe crispy chicken wrap with chips for $7.75. The dinner special is baked ham with mashed sweet potatoes, apples, and Brussels sprouts for $8.75. And in the Palm Grill, you can have veal piccata for $15.95 or grilled swordfish for $17.95. All menus are available 24 hours a day at www.shellpoint.net.
Hi, I'm Randy Woods, and I don't know about you, but I certainly am enjoying this festive Christmas season. As we started at the end of November with the first Sunday of Advent, Pastor Andy's messages have inspired us as we have studied the hymn text of O Come, Emmanuel, to free us, to cheer us, and this week to enlighten us. Last week we enjoyed the festive music of nostalgia as well as the Shell Point singers, and then Sunday night, Christmas with C.S. Lewis. Well, the Christmas season continues this week as we worship together, especially Sunday evening, as we join for the very traditional service of Lessons and Carols. The service is actually guided by what has happened for many years at the King's College in Cambridge, England. It's a reading of Old Testament and New Testament scriptures, 9 lessons and carols that tell us the complete story from creation to the redemption of man, the way God has expressed his love to us as we celebrated this Christmas season in the form of his Son, that babe in a manger. Well, as we share together, we look forward to not only hearing the lessons read by various readers from our community, but also singing the carols of Christmas and hearing the church choir. As they have been rehearsing for several weeks now, they will be singing some of the favorite music of Christmas that we all enjoy. There's the contemporary carol by John Rutter, his classic anthem entitled The Angel's Carol. We'll also be doing Bach's Jesu Joy of Man's Desiring. You'll hear a nice rendering of a traditional spiritual called Rise Up, Shepherds and Follow, sung by not only the choir, but joined by our soloist, Gene Hawkins. There's also a very unusual arrangement of Elene by Craig Courtney. He is born the divine Christ child. and I think you'll find this especially enjoyable. With Ron Bowd at the piano and at the organ, he will be expressing the message of Christmas through the melodies as he plays the piano and the organ as our featured artist for this special service. Dr. Ronald Bowd is one of the newest residents here at Shell Point in the estuary, and he has a long history in education and performance, as he has been a professor of music as well as a performer. I'm sure you're going to enjoy hearing him. Many have heard him already as he played for the most recent Thanksgiving Eve service. We enjoyed his artistry at the organ. So he'll be playing Sunday night, as well as the choir and the readers. So we invite you to come at 6:15. No ticket is needed. This is one of the most beautiful traditional services of the Christmas season. And we encourage you to come and be a part of the celebration. Sunday night, as we celebrate the Savior's birth with lessons and carols here at the Village Church at 6:15.
And that's going to wrap things up for us here today. Return tomorrow when I'll take you to the recently held Christmas gift extravaganza, and Jeff Corey will talk with Michelle Hoover about taxes and how the Legacy Foundation can be a great resource for you during the approaching tax season. Until then, I'm Rich Nation.
And I'm Mary Kay Grimaldi. On behalf of the entire Shell Point TV staff, we hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll see you back here again tomorrow.